Mike Aldrete is coming over here. This will end the longest drought in the National League. They haven't been in since 2011.
Yeah.
And they have not played well. They have found almost every single way to have blown it. But that's the thing. So many teams, as Mike's sitting down with us, so many teams they're basically backdooring into this thing. And that's why the postseason is going to be fabulous, because all these stats and everything that we got, it's not going to matter once we get into this tournament. Well, it's great to have you back on the program. How are you?
I'm doing great. How's everything?
It's good. Weather's great. 3 days left. How you feeling?
I actually feel really good. I feel like we had, despite what the record says, we accomplished some things this year. I think that we're going to take a real good look at a lot of these young kids, and hopefully, they're our future.
Well, the one thing, we have the Mark Kotze show every single week. We have the David Ford show. And the one thing I've really tried to highlight here, because, we get to be here when the fans aren't here. We get here really early up in the press box. We're always watching how hard you guys have worked with these players. I think you guys as a staff should be commended for your effort this year, because it's been amazing.
I appreciate that, and sometimes it does go unnoticed, and a lot of times it's not just like this. There obviously we've had teams here in the past, and I've coached other teams where you've got your share of veterans that you just kind of move them along and be there when they need to get their work in. But for whatever reason, this year there's a lot more teaching. There's a lot of guys. It's not easy to be in the big leagues, and there's a lot of kids that come up and don't know what it's like. So I think from a coaching standpoint, that's something that we have taken upon ourselves to help these guys, teach them how to work, teach them the game, teach them how they're supposed to act and react, and it's fulfilling. But at the same time, too, we do kind of like winning.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we've all been around the A's for a long time now, and I remember, we used to have the Bob Melvin show, and Bob Melvin talked. I think it was after 2014. We were talking going into the 15th season, where Bob talked about, there are times where it's great to get back to being a coach and a teacher and teaching guys the game, because that's really at heart what you guys are.
And that's kind of what I want to do. I mean, not that there have been other opportunities. I've been a bench coach for a long time in St. Louis and here, but I really get my fulfillment out of coaching, and I feel like some guys are just coaches at heart. That's kind of who I am. I like the work. I like to see the progress, and it's really gratifying when some of the hard work that you've put into it, it shows. Not today, but down the road sometime.
How much do you think these young guys have learned, and how this will help them going in next year to spring training?
Well, I know that going way back to my rookie year, I got a little taste of the big leagues, and everything. I was wide-eyed, deer in the headlights, trying to learn as much as I could. Everything was moving faster. I didn't feel like I could do the things that I normally think that I'm capable of doing. But it was a really, really good experience that first half of a season for me. And I know that I showed up in spring training the next year with a completely different feeling about myself, completely different feeling about being in the big leagues. And I think what has to happen with all of these guys is that at some point you have to turn this game into the same game that you've played ever since you were 10 years old. Now, it's much easier said than done, but once you get to that point where you show up to the ballpark and you say, it's a game that I've been playing forever, and I'm going to continue to do it the way I've always done it. Like I said, it's easier to say than do, because you know what? It's kind of a big deal to be in the big leagues.
Yeah.
And when you make it a big deal, that's when you kind of tense up, and that's when things start going too fast, and that's when you make mistakes. And so part of what we want to do from a coaching standpoint is bring these guys to some type of ease where they can go into the mode of, this is the same game. The bases are the same distance. The mound is the same distance. I'm not going to see any pitches that I've never seen before. They might happen with more frequency, but there's nothing that really happens on that baseball field that these guys haven't seen before. It's just that, like I said, the good pitchers are every day. They're not once every 5 days. The good fielders are out there for every single play, and that takes some getting used to. And then the whole big thing about the third deck, that a lot of guys have not been able to get over that. And with television and now with social media, millions of people know when you made a fool of yourself,
Yeah.
and I know that very well. uh, so that's something you got to get over too. So you got to have a short memory, and the bottom line is get a little bit better every single day. And if you get a little bit better every single day after 180 days of this, then you're a lot better.
I've been reading some sports psychology books, and in the post-game show, when callers are calling up about young players, I say it's so key. Like when I think it's just getting Jordan Diaz up here, whether he's going to start in AAA next year or not, the fact that you put a guy up here for a couple weeks, you give him a little taste of it, they're all going to go work out and lift weights and hit and pitch and do everything that they're going to do for their bodies in the off season. But it's training your brain. The fact that they got a little taste of it, that they understand it, they now truly can visualize it, see it, believe it. That helps so much for them going into next year that they've had this taste.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. I know that I got some of the best advice ever from a guy that everybody in the Bay Area knows, Mike Kruko.
Yeah.
My rookie year, I was here or in San Francisco. I was in the big leagues, and I was hitting under 200, and just about every single time I made an out, it was the end of the world. And there were times where I would like tiptoe into the clubhouse, and there were actually times where I would say, "Whew, I'm not playing today, so I can't make a fool of myself."
Yeah.
And anyway, I got sent down, and Kruko grabbed me and said, "Let me tell you something. You're going to come back here, and I can't tell you when, but you'll be back in the big leagues." And he says, "The next time you walk into that clubhouse, you walk into it like you own it." Because I had not been to that point. I was tiptoeing in and looking around and looking over my shoulder. That was great advice. And the minute that I felt like this is where I belong, I can do this. It was just, everything just started clicking. Not clicking as much as it did for a lot of other people, but for me, it clicked enough to where I said, you know what, I belong here.
You had a good career. You definitely had a good career, and you played a while too.
Well, and I see a lot of guys that coming up. If I could try to give them that story. And Nikki Allen is one of them who I've talked to and said, and you can see it. When he walks, when he takes the field, when he takes his grounders, there's just that air of I've got this, and thank goodness that he's gotten that in his time this year. And there's no question in my mind, he and a number of other these young kids, they're going to show up at spring training next year and say, "This ain't that big a deal. I
Yeah.
belong here. I can do this." And that's probably the biggest hurdle of all of them, because physically these guys are pretty darn good, and they can all catch the ball, throw the ball, hit the ball, run. They all have the tools, or else they wouldn't be here. It's that whole mental side of I got to get over whether I belong here or not. And hopefully, this experience for a lot of these kids is going to be beneficial going into next year.
I want to ask you about the rules for next year. Before we get to everybody's talking pitch clock and they're talking non-shift. The bigger bags. Big difference, little. I have no clue.
Well,
Bigger bags. We've been playing with the same size bags our entire life. What does this mean?
Yeah, well, going back to what I said earlier, that the mound is the same distance, the bases are the same distance. Well, not everything's the same. I have just as much experience with the big bag as you do, and
I hear
so
it's like
I'm
a almost. It's
like
almost like a large or a medium pizza
pizza.
box.
Yeah, just open it up, and one side is the base, and the other side's in foul.
Ah.
We will find out. I will say that that things that I have heard are that when they very first tried this whole thing out, the um, the sound was different. So they had to make the bags, the elongated bags, make them look and sound just like the regular bases, because the umpires were having a hard time with the sound for making their out and safe call. Other than that, I don't know. I think that that I think that'll all play itself out, and I think that at some point, we're going to look back and say, "Gosh, remember back, however many years ago when they only had the one small bag."
Yeah.
Now it's all the same now.
Pickoffs and limiting pickoffs, I think, will be here real quick. It's just going to try and get running going, and then they'll switch it. So I don't know how long that's
I'm
going
not
to
sold
last.
on that either.
I
I,
don't
I
know.
I don't know how you can make a guy do that, and also limit them to their number of picks, and then have the guy over there saying, "Well, he can't pick, so I can just take off whenever I want." Uh, Again, I've seen it as much as you have, which is probably not much. So a lot of these rules, we're going to experience them next year for the first time. We're going to talk about them in spring training, and we're going to, as a staff, we're going to come up with, what we think is probably our best plan of attack with all these things. And then I like the fact that, our staff is really good at the communication side, and I think that we'll be ahead of the curve when it comes to getting these guys ready for that.
Everybody wants to talk about shifting and the best players in the game. How does this affect the great sluggers? I believe, and we'll have to wait till we see it go back to playing the way we used to, how it helps all the players, all the hitters, and not just the left-handed power hitters, how it helps a Nick Allen or a Chad Pinder or Tony Kemp. What do you think it's going to be like going back to playing regular in the infield?
Well, there was a time that I thought with the shift, what you're going to start seeing is you're going to start seeing guys become better hitters, have the ability to use the whole field, have the ability, and that has not been the case. I think that what has happened is everybody has said, you know what, I don't care. I get paid when I hit homers, and so I'm not even worried about that shift. I'm going to keep trying to hit homers, and the whole beginning of the better hitter has not really happened because if even in today's game, the guys that are real good hitters that can use the whole field, they don't get shifted. And so that's why I kind of thought that there would be a trend in that direction. Once again, I swung and missed on that one, but I do think that it's going to help. It's going to help the guys that are kind of one dimensional, and if they're dead pull hitters, it's going to open up. It's going to open it up a little bit for them.
The pitch clock, we keep hearing all this cuts the game by half hour, 35 minutes. Get on the mound, throw it, and hit it. As a guy that is on Will after the games doing a post game show, I
Yeah.
can tell you I'm all for it. I love the extra inning rule because I don't want to be here all night long.
With you.
But to me, let's get on the mound, let's throw it, let's hit it, let's put the ball in play, and let's get some action rolling.
Well, if we all sat down and took a look at, historically the guys who were very successful pitchers, that's exactly what they did. They got the ball. They kept everybody moving. They threw the ball strikes. The game moved. The game moved. Their position players are ready. They're not standing on their heels saying, "Oh God, how long is this going to take?" So I think what it does is it kind of gets everybody in that mode of, you know, being a good pitcher. Get the ball, know what you're doing, and let's go. So hopefully, and I have talked to Fran Reardon, who has said that you're going to like the pitch clock. Believe it or not, it does help. And we all see the guy out there, and I'm as bad as anybody yelling at him from the dugout to throw the ball, and that doesn't always go over real well with the managers. But the bottom line is, I want to see a guy, and I will point out over the years, we've had guys that do it really, really well, and I'll try to point out to the other pitchers. You know why he's really successful? He gets the ball and he goes, and everybody's on their toes. Everybody's ready. Guys make good plays for him. The game moves fast. There's nobody falling asleep. We all might want to try that. So I think the pitch clock might be a helper.
I know you got to go. We appreciate the time. Let's end on this. You've been in baseball a long time. Season ends. How do you decompress? What do you do? What do you do in the off season before you got to get it going again and get ready for spring training?
Well, I can tell you that it's for me, and I'm not saying I'm the same as everybody. I need about a week where I just go home and just do nothing. And it's not so much a physical thing because, I can go on walks. I can, get in the weight room, do some light things, but it's more the emotional. and it's more the psychological. This game does take a toll, and from a physical standpoint, a lot like these players, we try to stay in pretty good physical condition. It's the mental side, it's the emotional side that just needs to take a break. But it's not very long, and my wife and my kids, and they all know that for the first 3 days, 4 days to a week, Dad's not doing much,
Yeah.
and then I like to get back into it. And for me, that means I'll play some golf. This year, I've got my daughter getting married, so that's going to take some of my time. Maybe take a trip or so each off season, but not much more than that. And then I really, really like the idea of I cannot wait to get to spring training. Uh, if I ever get to the point where it's like, oh gosh, I have to go to spring training again, then I need to take it to the house. But every year so far, I've gone home and I've done my thing and start itching after the first of the year, and then towards the end of January, beginning of February, I'm chomping at the bit to get to spring training, and that's kind of where I want to be.
Yeah, you've had a blessed career. You think about, growing up here, you think about Giants, you think about A's, all the years on this staff. I mean, it's been a blessed
Yeah,
career.
I have no complaints. I would probably not complain anyway if I was anywhere in the big leagues. But very fortunate to have spent a good portion of my time in the Bay Area, from the time I was born to college to the Giants to the A's, and it's actually helped out with my family. They're always close, and so again, I have no complaints.
Always appreciate the
All right,
time.
Tony,
We'll
appreciate it.
see you. We'll probably see you down in Arizona next time.
Hopefully I'll be there.
Yeah.
But I'll be the one with a big smile on my face because I can't wait to get there.
Great stuff. We got more. The Voice, Ken Korak, will join us next right
Wow.
here on a. You can't follow this act, by the way, Ken. You better be good there, sitter. That's all coming next right here on A's Cast Live.